This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, Real Talkers, you know it's a big week as American and Canadian negotiators are down to the wire trying to get a deal done. They're trying to make things happen. Of course, the political developments haven't slowed through this summer. I don't have to tell you that. How many by-elections are we looking at now? How many members of parliament have resigned? We're talking about the fall and what comes with that in the news cycle. But today, we proudly present a break for a moment, acknowledging that at any point as we record this episode, the Canadians and Americans could reach a trade deal, and we'll dive into it. We'll analyze it. But in this episode, we give you reason to celebrate, reason to get excited, and an opportunity to learn a little bit more about high-profile sporting events, major event attraction, bold fundraising, and really, really incredible partnerships. That is, of course, because, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you've seen it everywhere in your orbit, regardless of where you're watching this show from, the world's best women golfers, the best golfers on the planet, are coming to or have already arrived in our home city, in Alberta's capital city, to compete at the Royal Mayfair Golf Club, October 19th to 23rd. This is the CPKC Women's Open. And today we're shining a spotlight on some of the storylines you may not be following. You know that Canada's great hope, at least one of the brightest talents in the country, Brooke Henderson, will have eyes on her. You know that the world will be watching Nelly Korda and other contenders who will be hoping to take this title. But this tournament is about a whole lot more than birdies and maybe the odd bogey and a trophy. There's a terrific charitable component with the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation benefiting in a big way. If you're a regular tuner of this show, you don't need me to tell you that we're big believers in what they're building at the Stollery Children's Hospital. And that means that the impact of this event extends well beyond the fairways. We want to make sure that that story is getting told. And of course, there's the Alberta and the Edmonton angle too. When you can put the world's best women golfers on an historic course like the Royal Mayfair, when you can welcome fans from across the country and around the world and put Edmonton in front of a global sports audience, it's a pretty good tourism and economic development story as well. So what does it mean for Edmonton to host an event of this caliber? What does it mean for the Stollery? What does it mean for the title sponsor, CPKC, who has set a fundraising target that'll knock your socks off? We're about to get into that in a Real Talk Roundtable live from the historic Mercer Warehouse right here in the heart of downtown Edmonton. That's coming up in 30 seconds. Before we get to it, I'm proud to let you know that this episode happens with support from our friends at Hanson Distillery. They've just released their Danny R. ready-to-drink blood orange whiskey cocktail. I mean, this stands on its own from a taste perspective, but the story behind it is what we're particularly excited about. Danny R is all about checking in on your buddies, mentoring people coming up with you, showing up. That's the Danny R way, and that's the reason that this can and this project exists. You can learn more about it at hansondistillery.com. You can shop Danny R from anywhere across the country. Hanson will be happy to ship it, or you can always pop into their distillery in West Edmonton, just north of Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, 174th Street, 111th Avenue. You know what? A portion of the sales from Danny R go to support men's mental health initiatives, and that's something that we can get behind. So the next time you see a can of Danny R, go ahead and pick it up and drink it proudly, knowing that it was made right here by our friends at Hanson Distillery. Well, it's always a treat to welcome back to our Mercer Warehouse studio the CEO of the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation, Karen Faulkner. Karen, last time you were here, we were talking about $1 billion goal that you've set at the Stollery. And today, I guess we'll be talking about a pretty high-profile event, about as high-profile as it gets, that'll get you a little bit closer to that $1 billion.
Absolutely. $1 billion, you just got to break it down into chunks, and this is a big chunk.
Isn't that
Step by step.
They say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I guess that's how you raise $1 billion as well.
Absolutely. And we're so grateful that CPKC chose Stollery to be the charity partner. This is, not only do we raise money, but this is an opportunity for us to talk about the world-class care. Like, a lot of people don't know that we have the incredible cardiac program that we have. So we deal with the most complex cases. We take patients from all across Canada. Mostly in Alberta, mostly in Western Canada. We're the referral hub there. And this is a chance, because CPKC supports cardiac care, this is a chance for us to really get that word out there and really tell the world what we have in our community.
It's been so neat to see. We were at the airport a few days ago picking up some friends, and you see the CPKC Women's Open branding there. You see it right here in the heart of downtown. I see people finding photo ops everywhere. I know that is music to the ears of Explore Edmonton's Executive Director of Event Attraction and Sponsorship, Janelle. Janis, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you here. This must feel, I know I'm almost talking like this is said and done. Look at this accomplishment, but I bet you're feeling like we're just getting ready to go here with the tournament teeing off in just a couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so fortunate to be able to host this event in our city, and especially at the Mayfair. I think the best events that we can attract to Edmonton really hit all of the three pillars that we look for when we're trying to bring an event here. The first is economic. We know that there's going to be thousands of visitors coming into our city, spending money at our restaurants, at our hotels, dining out. They're projected to bring in $62 million of economic impact to Edmonton, which is outstanding. And the reputational benefits to be able to showcase Edmonton on a global stage. It's going to be broadcast on TSN, NBC, the Golf Channel. We'll get tons of earned media out of this that we, would never be able to actually afford. But the best ones obviously bring that social and community benefit to Edmonton as well. And we're seeing that right now with the Stollery Children's Hospital and everything that they're doing in our community to help promote golf and get more golfers on the course. Yeah,
I'm one of those that will spend every weekend that I'm available just watching golf. And one of the big things that captivate me are the big sweeping aerial shots and seeing these beautiful golf courses and of course the vistas and the skylines. And I think it's going to be a real trip. I think it's going to be really exciting for people to see Edmonton featured in front of a global golf audience like that.
Absolutely. And it was important for us to, Mayfair was our #1 golf course. Obviously, we're fortunate. We have some incredible courses in Edmonton. But being able to showcase and highlight the Horlock Park that's just been newly renovated, and it's close to downtown, we want to get people out and about, not just at the course, but come and explore our city, come and see everything there is to do and see here.
Well, the CPKC Women's Open doesn't happen without CPKC. That should go without saying. And it's awesome to have you here. Vince Lambert as well will introduce you to the audience. Vince, you're the specialist with community investment and workplace giving. Can I say there's probably some people that are well aware of the golf tournament that may not be 100% familiar with CPKC, or at least they don't think they are. Who is CPKC?
Well, thank you first for having me and having a panel with these lovely ladies. CPKC, so we are not an easy listening radio station. We are not a TV station that plays reruns of Murder, She Wrote. I would watch that channel.
I would watch that channel.
That's not us. So most Canadians will know us as CP or CP Rail or CPR, Canadian Pacific. We were founded in 1881. We've been around a while. In the last few years, we changed our name. So we acquired another company. We came together with Kansas City Southern. So that's where our KC comes from. So classic CP, we had track Montreal to Vancouver. I usually say when I'm explaining north of Edmonton, I can say Scotford with you guys because you're from here. You know where that is, Fort Saskatchewan. And then we used to terminate down in Kansas City. And so now our rails and south of Mexico City. So our rail network is now kind of like a T. But that's who we are. That's what we do. We haul stuff for our customers. We haul heavy, big stuff.
Heavy,
a lot
big
of stuff.
And keep the economy moving and
You
keep
bet.
trade happening
You bet.
and transportation corridors open. And I mean, just obviously a legendary history with that company. Maybe I'll wax more on that later. I had a really special experience at a CPKC campus. I was hosting the Juno Beach Center Gala a number of months ago down in Calgary, and I was just marveling at these old engines and train cars. And I was telling this audience, gather around everyone here for story time. I was telling this audience, CPKC, you've got those 3 rail cars that are beautifully preserved, and I was informed by the team there, the CPKC team, that those were the exact rail cars that Sir Winston Churchill and Prime Minister William Lyon Mackenzie King and FDR were traveling on to Quebec ahead of D-Day. And then I said, "You mean these are replicas, or these are?" They said, "No, these are the exact cars." I mean, what an incredible and rich history.
It's cool. Did you get to tour the cars?
I did.
Did you go in the room that used to have Sir Winston Churchill's bathtub?
Oh, I don't know.
You probably did. It's one of the first right off of, let's call it a foyer.
Yeah.
So the the Royal Canadian Pacific staff, we call them RCP internally, they didn't refinish the walls. It's like fancy wood. I don't remember which wood. It's fancy wood. They didn't refinish it because they didn't think that would be good. So Sir Winston Churchill would have baths in the car, in that room, hot baths.
Yeah.
Consider the war.
Smoking cigars.
As you do.
Yeah.
Consider the war.
As you do.
And so it wrinkled the wood. And they're like, let's just leave the wrinkle wood. That's a neat story. So those cars are historic. They're super cool. We're really lucky to have kept them. Lots of the railroads got rid of all that stuff. So our Royal Canadian Pacific fleet is super cool.
And the history, I mean, just the story that it tells, it just reiterates to me that CP and now CPKC has been a part of a huge part of Canada's history and a big part of building Canada. Why does it make sense for CPKC to take title sponsorship, presenting sponsorship of this high-profile golf tournament? Why is it a good fit for the company?
Well, for us, we focus on cardiac health with CPKC as heart. We did some investigation, and we found that it was really underrepresented. So globally, it's the leading cause of death globally is cardiac. In Canada, the last year or two, cancer has taken its spot. I don't know if that's good because cardiac's doing a better job or cancer's doing a worse job. I don't know. However, we're cardiac. And so we bring that to everything we do. And so when we took title sponsor of the Women's Open in 2014, we felt we wanted to raise profile of cardiac health. We also really wanted to raise profile of women's sport. So back in 2014, I'm talking like it's 700 years ago. Back in 2014, women's sport wasn't really a thing. It's really, really becoming a thing now. Like in the last couple of years, there's a professional hockey league now. There's professional soccer. So we're really proud to have raised the profile of women's sport, specifically golf, with this title sponsorship. So we've had it since 2014. We've raised lots of money for children's hospitals. And we bounce the tournament across Canada. So we kind of do a TikTok, east-west, east-west. So last year we were in Mississauga. This year we're right here in Edmonton. We're happy to raise the profile of women's sport, and we're happy to raise the profile of the amazing Stollery.
So through this commitment, and this is wild. The first time I saw the number, it just kind of knocked me back in my seat. But CPKC setting an ambitious goal of raising nearly $4 million in support of the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation through this golf tournament. How significant is a boost like that, a $4 million boost?
It's huge. It's huge, and dedicated to cardiac care. So we took a look at where the opportunities were, research, better equipment that helps detect and diagnose more precisely, better monitoring equipment so that we can, if a child after, say, a heart transplant is having issues, we can detect those issues. sooner, prevent things like strokes. So huge to get that injection. And, you know, we've got world-class cardiologists. Like we've got Dr. Lisa, we're talking about great women golfing, great women doing amazing medical research and care. Dr. Lisa Hornberger is known as the mother of fetal cardiology, and she's right here at the Stollery. Dr. Lori West was the first to figure out that you could do a transplant on a newborn or a small infant, and you didn't need to have a blood type match because their immune systems weren't developed. So we have these amazing health professionals, and we got to make sure we give them the best equipment and all the tools that they need to keep them here, but to also deliver the best care. So this is a big boost, and it's targeted in a really important area for us. We do over 700 complex cardiac surgeries every year. So
2 a day. When we're talking like complex cardiac surgeries,
double organ transplants.
Okay. About as big as major as it gets.
Absolutely. So so this is great. You know, we fundraise in so many different ways throughout the year. We've got to support 377,000 patient visits. And so when you can get a boost like this to a particular area, it really, really helps. So the impact is huge, and what a fun way to raise money too.
Oh my gosh, it's the best. That's Karen Faulkner. If you're just joining our live stream presented by California Closets, the CEO of the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation, Vince Lambert in the house with CPKC, and Janelle Janis from Explore Edmonton in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Your whole body, like your posture changed when Vince started talking about women's sport, and just I would say the explosion of interest in many of the, I mean, you know, we didn't mention like the WNBA, but I looked at the PWHL and just the growth that it's seen and just the impact that it has. I hope you don't mind me pointing out. I mean, I happen to know you're an athlete yourself. You've played at a competitive level.
Former athlete.
Well, yeah, athletes always say former, but you know, and obviously I know that, you know, through the course of your work with Explore Edmonton, you've done a ton to promote those events. I know you're in the stands of the PWHL touchdown in Edmonton. How big of a deal is it for Edmonton to land an LPG event? This is the only LPG event that will be played on Canadian soil this season, right? Which is a huge deal. Can you give us some insight just into the magnitude of it, and maybe almost the, I don't know if, do you say generational impact or the longer term impact of something like this from a sporting standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just to go back on the women's sport piece, I think that's what I've loved to see over the last few years. Honestly, people aren't just coming out to support women's sport anymore. They're fans of women's sport, full stop. And that is, that's a change. That's been a massive shift, and women's sport it's got huge momentum, and I don't think it's going anywhere. And that's why at Explore Edmonton, it is one of our strategic priorities. We have an ambitious goal. We want to be a top destination for women's sport because we see the advantages that it brings into a community. I mean, look at CPKC. It's such a perfect example of that. Not only are we getting to feature Edmonton to the world and you know, create economic prosperity in our community, but we're also giving back, and that's been really it's been a really great experience to work with Golf Canada, to work with CPKC, and these events don't just happen. You know, we've been courting Golf Canada to host CPKC for many years. We won the event back in 2024, and so we've just been.
Can I?
Yes.
I'm very curious to know. I guarantee this audience would be curious to know how you land it and what the process is like, and is there like a bid, or can you take us behind the scenes?
Yeah. So actually, Golf Canada changed their bid process to host CPKC Women's Open. They typically went directly to the golf courses, but then kind of realized how a lot of the national sport organizations are now doing the bid process, which is working with the destination marketing organizations, working with the city, because that collaborative process just makes it easier when you come to town. So they renewed that, I think, in 2023 or 2022 rather, and then we submitted our bid in 2023, working with the city of Edmonton, working with the different venues in the city to provide the right venue that would be technically the choice of Golf Canada. Obviously, we had our favorite with the Mayfair, and knowing that that Horlock Park was going to be completed in 2026. So this was our goal, and I think what makes Edmonton different is that we believe truly in the power of partnership. So we don't think we're going to get something done just by Explore Edmonton. We know we have to work with community. We know we have to work with the city of Edmonton. We know we have to work with our venues and the wonderful people that live in this city to make these events happen and to make it come alive. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Edmonton. I think we're at our very best when we have something to rally around, and major events give us that.
That's got to be, and I think for the Stollery, like you're talking about institutions, like there's the CPKC angle and institutions, certainly in a number of different contexts, transportation industry and the like. I mean, even the Royal Mayfair itself, I mean, I could go on and on and on about the golf course and just really the among Canada's top courses, to be sure, and a pristine experience. And then you've got the Stollery as well. I mean, is this the sort of thing when you're looking at the highest profile events, drawing in different generations, different age groups, people from across the country and beyond, and the Stollery's going, we need to be a part of this? Because there's a whole bunch of parallels in the messaging, aren't there? Like the Stollery's bringing a lot of people together too.
Absolutely. And, we're thinking about the Stollery. We're going to be celebrating our 25th anniversary this fall. And you think about how much has been accomplished in 25 years, but what could we do in the next 25? And we've got big ambitions. We want to be a globally renowned children's hospital. And why do we want to do that? Ultimately, it's for the kids. If we can attract the best talent, the best resources, we can grow that Stollery in a new facility, our kids are going to get the best care possible. So this is really about dreaming big. So when we think about having a world-class golf event, a company like CPKC and the Stollery, we're all trying to do bigger things, and our community is there for us.
Why is the new standalone Stollery so important? Why is this project so important?
Well, we're way out of space. Like, we're so long overdue. I always joke with our medical teams that you could get a job in a major theme park because you know how to manage patients through like tourists through SeaWorld. They shouldn't be spending their time doing that, trying to figure out where to place kids within a limited space.
Well, and that must be creating some real issues as well with delivery of care, right?
Totally. It's it takes away. We want our doctors to think about the care they're delivering and not where to put patients. So surge season, you've got kids in the hallways, you've got kids in playrooms. We're so overdue, and kids deserve their own space. When they walk into the hospital, it should feel like it's built for kids. Our community deserves this, just like they deserve a world-class golf event. We deserve this, and so we're working really hard to do it. It's coming along really well, and I want everyone to know that. We've been talking about this for a long, long time, and it's finally happening. We have a site, southwest corner of the University Farm. Functional planning's almost done. We're looking forward to site preparation and detailed design coming up. We could have this hospital easily within the next decade, if not 8 years. So it's super exciting, and it is going to happen.
Is this the type of commitment like that you get buy-in from team members at CPKC, like you're the men and women that are keeping these trains rolling and keeping the company moving along? Do they kind of buy in or almost feel like there's ownership or they're making a collective commitment when you set a $4 million fundraising goal like that? What sort of an impact have you seen with the team
inside a company? So my leadership is very engaged. They drill me all the time. How are we doing? Are we getting there? Are we going to beat it? Where are we? And then my friend over here, Janelle, when I met her this morning, she's like, "What did Calgary make 2 years ago? How many people showed up?" And so I think the Edmonton-Calgary rivalry is
what's
still
the
going
answer?
on
What
here.
did they raise in Calgary? Do we know? Can we say? It can't be a secret.
So in Calgary 2 years ago, we hit 3.8.
Okay.
Goal here is 3.9. In Mississauga last year, we raised 4. I don't work for a company that's like, you know what, goals, we'll hit that goal. I work at a company that surpasses goals. So I can't promise right now, but we have the goal, and we will do better than the goal. I don't know if it's $5 or $1 million, but we'll get there. So the leadership is there. They're there. They're pounding for it. They want to beat that goal. People on the train, I chat to them once in a while. I'm conductor qualified, so sometimes I'm out on our trains.
Are you?
Yeah. So I'll talk to them. There's a pride in the company. So we have a pride in our company. And they're excited that we're doing things with our money. We make a couple bucks, hauling the heavy stuff for our customers. And so it's amazing as an employee to know that we're giving some money back to the communities we operate in and through, to Stollery. We have a relationship with every children's hospital in this country. There's 13.
Wow.
They're building the 14th right now in GTA, let's call it. So I'm very proud to own those relationships. So I work with all the children's hospitals to make sure we have money into them.
Amazing.
To make sure that little kids are being cared for the best. Working with Stollery to make sure that Western Canada has the best heart center they can possibly have. To make sure they have the best equipment. To make sure that they can keep pushing on that research. That amazing research that they do to give kids better outcomes.
It's been awesome to see one of Canada's all-time golf greats, Lori Kane, repping the CPKC on her sweater as an ambassador. And I don't know if I told you my horror story, Karen, did I? So as I don't have to tell you, she was out in support of Tee Up for Tots, which is a big fundraiser for the Stollery, and I'm so proud to host it every year. And as you know, she's out there on the tee box, right? This was just a couple of months ago. I didn't tell you this story. Oh my gosh, I was horrified. So I'm coming up and it's Lori Kane, like all-time great, like Hall of Fame golfer, right? And part of me is like I want to get like a signed ball. I definitely want to get a photo. But she's up there and we're on a par 3. And, you sort of like try to beat the pro, right? So you make a donation to the Stollery, and then if your ball on the par 3 lands closer to the pin than Lori Kane's, then you're qualified to win this great prize. But like I grew up watching Lori. Like I love, come on, Lori Kane. Like she's a Canadian sporting legend. So I get all ready, and she's being so supportive of everybody, and even just the distance, Karen. I was playing a club I love. I was playing my 9-iron. I mean, I would just go to the wall with my 9-iron if I have to. I take like 8 inches of turf. I take like the biggest beaver tail divot you can possibly imagine. My ball doesn't even get off the tee box. And there's Lori Kane behind me just staring at me. I'm like, I had my one moment. Oh my gosh. And it like haunts me still. But how cool is that? I mean, you've got Lori Kane here who's been doing an unbelievable job, obviously promoting this. You've got Brooke Henderson here. I mean, a lot of people are going to be obviously wanting to know what the field looks like and who are some of these golfers they're going to be able to watch. I know some of this is almost kind of like down to the wire, last minute. Players can enter the tournament or however it goes. But the angle on that as well. I mean, just for the golf fans, this is going to be a huge weekend. Oh,
it's going to be massive. And I think just to add on to the competitive rivalry, Calgary holds the current attendance record for this event.
What is it?
That's 72,000, just over 72,000. So, I mean, obviously I'd love to see 75, but our real goal is 80,000 people at the Mayfair. Come down, support these, or support the Stollery Children's Hospital, and come out and watch some incredible golf. Like you said, we have Brooke Henderson here. We have Nelly Corda. We have Lydia Ko, who won last time. Last time we hosted this event, she was 15 years old in 2013 when she won. So I think there's some full circle stories, and really hoping that Edmontonians show up, because there's a reason that we're number 1 in this country as a sport hosting destination, and we're number 22 in the world, and it's because we do show up and we rally around these big events and these big moments.
I love that. So people can't get tickets for this. Like
Absolutely.
Obviously people right now can go, and some really neat opportunities. We'll link to it in the show notes, Real Talkers, on the podcast and on YouTube, so you can click directly to pick up your tickets. But you can also just go check out CPKC womensopen.com. It's August 19th to the 23rd at Edmonton's Royal Mayfair Golf Club. Just like it's been fun. This is where our son plays golf and he takes lessons there, and it's been so neat to see, I don't know what you call them, but like the bleachers going in and all the setup and the infrastructure, literally and metaphorically. I mean, there's a ton of heavy lifting that goes into this logistically and otherwise. It's pretty neat to see something like this. I'm thinking of other big events that come to Edmonton. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking way back in the day, like the Red Bull Crashed Ice, where for days or weeks ahead of time, you're seeing the setup, and it kind of builds this buzz in the city. Are you feeling that as well? Are you experiencing that, like almost an infusion of energy?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing I love about hosting these major events. It gives people a reason to talk about Edmonton, and it gives a reason for Edmontonians to feel some civic pride in their city. And, you know, I think you see that with all of them. The FIFA Women's World Cup that we hosted in 2015. You see it with Red Bull Crashed Ice. You see it with the World Juniors coming up in December. World Cup of Hockey that we're going to be hosting in 2028.
That's a big one, right?
I think that's the beautiful thing about events. They're catalysts for bigger things in your community. And CPKC is a perfect example of that.
I love this. I mean, you can get tickets on the grounds for like $26. So, I mean, it's really affordable for families to go check it out. That's on the Wednesday, right?
Kids are free.
Yeah.
Kids 12 and under,
Kids 12
did you say?
and under,
Are
free.
totally free.
Yes.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah.
You know, I always love hearing these stories, right? Of like, you know, a little girl like watches Brooke Henderson or whatever, and like 11 years later, she's teeing off in the CPKC Women's Open. Do you?
Yeah. So first of all, though, we need to get back to something. Did you get a signed ball?
I did get a signed ball. And a photo.
There you go.
But I think that it was more like, I think she just pitied me at that point.
No.
Like, you know what I was hoping to do? Put it like 8 inches
Amazing.
from the pin, tap in birdie. But it was just, you got to do what you got to do. But she was nothing but class. I mean, obviously, my playing partners let me have it once we left. And they were just absolutely loving it. But I did get the signed ball.
Good. She's the loveliest person. She's for PEI. She's Canadian.
She's so gracious.
She played for 30 years at this tournament. Her list of accolades is more than these sheets of paper. I was at an event. I was prepping for an event with her. I was at Tee Up for Tots as well. So I was prepping for an event with her years ago. And I said, you know, how do you want me to introduce you? Do you want, you know, Order of Merit? Do you want Order of Sport? Lieutenant Governor, Governor's Award, this award, that award, Golf Award, Everything Award, Amazing Lady Award. And she kept saying, no. I'm like, Lori, am I just going to introduce you as some lady who plays golf? Yeah. She's like, yeah, do that. So that's how I introduce her, jokingly, of course. So she's one of our ambassadors. We have 3 ambassadors for this tournament. We have Lori Kane, loveliness. We have Brooke Henderson. You mentioned her a couple times. Mm-hmm. I don't like this word, but it's the word that we have to use. Okay. She's the winningest Canadian golfer in history. Any gender, winningest. She's super cool. Mm-hmm. She's super nice. Her sister used to be her caddy. Her sister had a baby this year. So Auntie Brooke has a different caddy for this year, but she's still doing great. She's one of our ambassadors as well. We're super excited for our 2 golf ambassadors. And then we have Maverick. So we always have a children's hospital ambassador. So this year, our ambassador is Maverick. So I'm not a doctor, and they use a lot of big old words to describe him. I'm just going to use normal language, saying he had some wicked congenital heart defects. And they lived in Manitoba at the time. They got airlifted to the Stollery. He got operated on super young, like just a tiny baby, fresh baby, operate. He got operated on again as a 1-year-old. He has so many complications of everything. He's a ball of energy. He's crazy. At Media Day, we did some photos with him. He was showing us his kicks. He was showing us his karate chops. He's a ball of energy. He's awesome. So we're really proud to have our 3 ambassadors. Maverick, of course, from Stollery, just showing what a little cardiac kid can be when they get awesome care. So that's Stollery.
Exactly that. It's about every kid reaching their potential. And you see him, and you know, he and I were both getting a golf lesson from Lori Kane at the same time, which was incredible. And
let me guess, Karen, you stuck it within 8 inches of the pin.
No, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even. No, it was. We were all standing around doing photos, and I'm like, I had a bike accident. I can't use my elbow. She's like, it's all about confidence, Karen. And she's like, look at Maverick. Look at Maverick with the club, and he truly, there's nothing that kid can't do. He's amazing. So that's why we do what we do.
I love it. So this audience is an engaged audience. This is an audience of doers, and of course they're going to want to know. Number one, I mean, how can you get involved? How can you get your tickets? And we'll make that nice and easy for you. You can click the link through. Awesome. You can still get tickets to the grounds on Sunday. I mean, you want to see this come down to the wire. You can get your ticket to be on there for the entire week. They've got these Heritage Lounge tickets, which I'm very intrigued by. I think people are going to be having a pretty good time there, to say the very least. I know that there's a lot of enthusiasm around it, but people also want to know how they can support the Stollery through this and through this partnership with CPKC. So I mean, it strikes me as a pretty good opportunity if you've been considering a Stollery donation for a while, because you can really maximize the impact of your gift this week.
Absolutely. So, just go to stollerykids.com/CPKC match. And your donation can be matched. So it goes so much further. But I really encourage people to come down and participate. I mean, you can be, feet away from some of these amazing golfers. All the water bottle sales come back to Stollery. There's a fun zone where there's some games you can play, and CPKC will donate a Plinko game. So there's different ways on course that you can help support the Stollery. So I really encourage people in whatever way they can, come out, have some fun, and support the Stollery.
Okay. You were about to say something.
Yeah. I have another ambassador story. Is that okay?
Do whatever you want, man. You think people need hope. This is why I opened the episode to throw people a curveball. Everyone's so sick of talking about trade relations.
You freaked me out. I'm like, oh no, am I in the wrong panel?
Give us something good here.
So a little bit aside from that, we were founded in 1881 from a promise to BC to build a rail line, to unite our country, because there were concerns about annexation from the U.S. So who would ever think that would happen? Leaving that alone. Back to the ambassador. So Nicole was our ambassador in 2023 in Shaughnessy, Vancouver. She hadn't played golf before. She played golf with Lori, just as Maverick did. Her big sister plays golf. And so she kind of liked it. She started taking golf, little Nicole. She played in the Canadian Juniors this year. She's good enough to play in the Canadian Juniors now. So that is an amazing story. She was a little cardiac kid. She had never touched golf. So there's a lasting impact, even aside from the children's hospitals. Like, we touched that little girl's heart. And she's picked up a sport that she really likes. And maybe someday she'll play in our tournament.
How cool is that?
Neat,
Nicole Jai we're talking about, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm checking out the website right now. There's a ton of history on the site, cpkcwomensopen.com, where you can learn more about past ambassadors, and I mean, just all the good news stories around this, which is incredible. And you want to talk about, these legacy events, Janelle. You obviously would imagine want to make sure that there's kind of that legacy impact where a big sporting event, I mean, I guess like the biggest examples we talk a lot on this show about like infrastructure and big budget builds and things like that. So you look at, for example, we have the mayors from Calgary and Edmonton here across, and on the fly in front of microphones, they're musing about maybe a shared bid for a future Winter Olympic Games. Right. But then it's got the audience talking about things like the high-speed rail lines or what have you. Mm-hmm. When you look at something like this, you've got the legacy impacts, I guess, the seeds that are planted with the young golfers and the kids. And then how do you measure it from there? Like from an Explore Edmonton standpoint, or what you do, how do you approach something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Edmonton's actually leading the way when it comes to legacy. Councillor Clark, with his motion to ensure that there's a legacy component for any major event that we host over the $6 million economic impact. So we would be partnering with the City of Edmonton, with Sport Edmonton, to come up with what that legacy looks like with community, with the rights holder, so that we're getting the most impact for Edmonton, for Edmontonians. And I mean, I think I just want to go back to something you touched on about the little girls behind the ropes that are going to be coming to the event over the course of this week. And I can't say this with more passion, but I urge people to bring their little girls to this event. Myself, I feel like I'm technically a legacy product of the 2002 FIBA Under-19 Women's World Championships when we hosted it in Commonwealth Stadium. And I'm 15 years old. I'm sitting in the stands. 15 is a pretty prime age to quit sport. But you're seeing Christine Sinclair in front of you in person on the field with Cara Lang, Aaron McLeod, and you're thinking, wow, maybe I want to keep going. And maybe I want to keep trying. Maybe I want to keep pushing myself. And for these little girls that are coming to the course, you're seeing that in person. There's something really powerful about that. And so that's legacy that sometimes you can't really measure. But to me, that's super impactful.
I love that. Before we wrap, I want to make sure that the audience has a complete understanding of what the week looks like. There's obviously people that are going to be traveling from across the country and around the world. I mean, do you have any insights on that, by the way, on like what our friends at YEG at the airport might be expecting for traffic and where the fans are coming from and what a tournament like this does draw-wise?
Yeah, so, I mean, thankfully, Golf Canada has some really great data on past events. So what we've seen in the past is that 30% of the attendees are coming from outside of Edmonton.
Wow.
So that could be rubber traffic, coming on airplanes, obviously. And so we know that we're expecting to see roughly around 24,000 estimated room nights in Edmonton. So that's a pretty great number. To have 62 million in economic impact in our community is quite big when you compare it to other events. World Juniors is slightly more. You have something like the Volleyball Canada Super Nationals, for example. I mean, they bring in 50 million. So this is a massive event for our community in terms of its economic opportunity for here.
Love that.
I'd just like to jump in.
Yeah.
You know, I made a joke. We would love the attendance to break records. We would love that. Brooke has the Brooke Brigade, so all these little girls in red shirts following around. You don't have to look on the app to find where Brooke is on the course. There's a little mass that follows her everywhere.
So cool.
So we would love for people to come out. We would love for you to come out. We would love to host you.
I'll be there.
We would love to host you. The different days have different things going on. So Thursday is tournament proper starting. Friday is actually birdie day. So classically we had a different kind of birdie event. So Friday is birdie day. So any birdie on course by a pro is worth $1,500 to Stollery.
Wow.
Yeah. So come out if you want to come out on birdie day. We had a special hat made. Nobody in public has seen this. Not even the company has seen this.
Ooh.
So this is a secret hat until Friday.
Wow.
But not secret anymore.
Oh.
No, you're fine.
You're
fine.
Well, don't hand it. Yeah, I love this.
Isn't it cool?
Wow, this is super cool.
Birdie day is Friday, so we're hoping to raise. Our goal is $500,000 for Stollery. So the public will come. They'll help. We're really hoping that our LPGA players will help. I have no concerns about that.
Yeah.
And then Saturday.
Are we able to tax the players $1,500 for every bogey? That could also maybe make it $5,000 for a bogey. What do you think, Karen? I like that idea. We'll just take it off their check.
And then
Vince
Saturday.
getting a little nervous. Jesperson's going off script. Okay, and then the weekend.
Saturday is red and white day. So Canadian pride. Do you know about the rink hole? So it's a very Canadian thing.
Okay.
We're Canadians. We love a good hockey. So we have the rink hole. So there's hockey boards. There's penalty boxes. There's a Zamboni. Oh, I don't know if I can call it that. Ice cleaner.
Yes.
And we have jerseys for all the players. So if the players want to put a jersey on to hit, we encourage that. Laurie always put on the Maple Leafs and got booed anywhere outside of Toronto.
We don't really, we love to, Janelle will tell you, we love to roll out the welcome mat here in Edmonton, except if they're wearing Leafs jerseys. That's just the thing,
we gotta draw the line
We got to draw the line. We have some standards here, yeah.
So Brooke is from Smiths Falls, which was a railroad town. It's about an hour outside of Ottawa, so she usually wears a Senators jersey. But it's super fun. The rink hole is fun. And so Saturday's red and white. A really cool thing that happens from our spectators is that when Brooke comes up, everybody starts singing "Oh Canada," and it's so cool. And she's a very focused person, but you can tell that it kind of gets her. So that's super cool. And then Sundays are finals. So we will, mid-afternoon-ish, announce the total. Hopefully it's a gigantic number to Stollery. And then late afternoon, early evening, we'll have our champion. So lots of reasons to come out. As Karen mentioned, we have the Family Zone, lots of activities. There's even we have a bunker hunt. So it's sandbox, but we call it a bunker hunt because we're on a golf course.
It's so much fun.
So kids can dig around and try and find a prize. Lots of stuff to do for all ages, lots of viewing, lots of little brook brigades. So we would love if we broke the record. We would love if we broke the record for the fundraising.
Well, then let's just do it.
Let's break some records.
Why don't we just go break records? Let's just go do it. Have I missed anything that people need to know heading into? I know it's a big week. We're one day out from the festivities sort of officially kicking off, and then as mentioned, all the way through till Sunday. I've seen some activations around the city and the like. People can keep their eyes open.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've touched on mostly everything. I will just kind of end on the fact that Edmonton is the most northern metropolis in North America. So we do have to make our own fun here. We don't have the oceans, we don't have the mountains. So these big events are what people can get behind and come out and support the Stollery, come out and cheer loud for these incredible golfers that we get to host in our city and show up like you always do, Edmonton.
I love that. Last word to the CEO.
I would just say Edmonton and our rural Stollery supporters. A third of our patients come from outside of Edmonton, and what a great experience to come to Edmonton and experience the CPKC Women's Open.
100%. Course is looking good. It's going to be an unbelievable weekend. I don't want to say anything out loud to jinx it, but the forecast is looking pretty good as well. Fingers crossed. If you want to learn more about the bold vision, the goal, and of course, what we're really proud to support when it comes to the Stollery and the new Stollery Children's Hospital, you can check out StolleryNobounds.com. And then if you want to go ahead and make sure that you get your tickets for this weekend, so you can check out that CPKC Women's Open. You can go directly to the website. That's CPKCWomen'sOpen.com. And one more time, it'll be in the show notes, Real Talkers, but StolleryKids.com/CPKC match is how you can have your Stollery contribution matched by CPKC. It's been awesome to have Vince Lambert here in the studio with CPKC, Janelle, Janis with Explore Edmonton, and Karen Faulkner with the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Thanks for doing this, you three. I will see you at the course this weekend. Can't wait.
There.
Real Talkers, if you're out there, we'd love to hear from you as well. Let us know your plans. You can send us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. More in just a moment, but first I want to give you the heads up and let you know that this episode happens with support from our friends at Play Alberta. Alberta's winning every day with Play Alberta, and that's because all revenue stays here in Alberta, and that makes all the difference. Play Alberta is the only app in the province that puts all revenue directly back into supporting programs and services that Albertans rely on every day. So whether you play, bet, or buy with casino, sports, or lottery, know that your fun also helps make a difference across the province. Visit playalberta.ca/realtalk to learn more. That's playalberta.ca/realtalk. You've got to be 18 or over to play. If you gamble, use your game sense. Well, let's talk about golf. Has you looking for a track to book a tee time, and you're going to be in the Metro Edmonton region, or you're open to making a trip up here to go see the ladies play this weekend, check out theranchgolf.com to book your tee time. This is one of the best public courses in the province on a number of different fronts. The caliber of play, the conditions out there, and then, of course, the good vibes. That's why we bring our Real Talk Golf Classic presented by Kubi Energy to the ranch every single year. It's one of Alberta's premier public golf courses, just 20 minutes from downtown Edmonton. You can check it out online. Book your tee time today at theranchgolf.com. Our friends at North Road Investment Council are adding to their team right now. And hey, this could be a sign. This could be your next big move. They're looking for a client service associate to join their Edmonton team. If you've got experience in financial services, if you love working surrounded by others in an office environment, if you take pride in delivering an exceptional client experience, this could be a tremendous opportunity for you. They're also looking for experienced wealth management professionals. If you have a CFA or a CFP designation, have experience working with high net worth families, check out North Road Investment Council online today at northroadic.com. North Road Investment Council, independent advice for successful Albertans. And speaking of a proud Alberta brand, how about Friesen Brothers? 16 locations across the province, 71 years and counting, still family owned. Friesen Brothers is where we feed our family, and we encourage you, whether it's a quick grab and go situation, maybe you're getting some burger patties before you hit the road on the road trip. Maybe you're having folks over for a backyard barbecue, or maybe you just need a break and you want someone else to do the cooking for you, but you want to make sure that you're still delivering the best quality possible. Friesen Brothers has you covered. You can check out their website, friesen.com, for a whole bunch of different angles on making sure that you're putting good food on the table, including their Family Essentials flyer, which I highly recommend. Great quality food ideas for low prices, including recipes right there in the flyer. You can always pop in to store as well. That's Friesen Brothers in 16 locations across Alberta. Proudly Alberta grown and Alberta owned. This show's technical director, John Hicks, flying the plane here, and a man about town. I know you're oftentimes looking at a pretty full weekend schedule.
White people
You're
parties.
Find your way. Hey, you cut that. You cut that. There's no frame of reference right now, so I guess you're either going to cut that from this podcast
It's in the live
or
stream.
explain it. It's
You
in
can
the
check it
live
out.
stream.
Yeah.
Okay, good
Not on
stuff.
the official audio from the podcast.
Okay. Do you have plans to be at the women's golf tournament? You going to swing on by the
Yeah,
Mayfair
of course.
this weekend?
I always,
it's going to be super cool.
No matter what's going on in Edmonton, whether it's the Pride hockey game they have here, or soccer, or whatever, if it's something like Edmonton, I'm not going to say sports don't come to Edmonton often, but this is special, right? And so I think what our guests iterated today, and what I'm going to reiterate, is that when things come that aren't always here, go see them, because big things happen at them, especially when it involves women's sports. Supporting women's sports is so critical and crucial, not as much as it used to be, because as you said, just women's sports are just getting so much more popular, but also it's exciting to go there and be in the mix, and kids are excited about women's sports now, and it never was like that when I was growing up. I'll just be honest. It was I grew up in Toronto, Ontario. It was Jays, Leafs, the farm team, and that was it. And nowadays we've got all levels of sport, women and men, charity events, special events, and especially in the summer here where we kind of I'm not going to say we got robbed, but that rain was, if it's a nice day.
Dude, we got robbed.
Get out there, go see an event that you don't normally see, that isn't always, a regular thing in the city of Edmonton. It's a great cause. It's a great event. And support women's sports. It's awesome. Yeah,
I totally agree. I'm just teeing this up and taking a look at this. You can show it. You remember this back? This was I think 3 years ago now, was it? Nick Taylor at a playoff. He was on the fourth playoff hole against Tommy Fleetwood. Canadian Nick Taylor. This was the RBC Canadian Open, and he hits that 72-foot putt. A Canadian golfer to win the Canadian Open in front of thousands of Canadian golf fans that just go absolutely berserk. Obviously, you see Mike Weir there clapping. I mean, obviously another Canadian golf icon, but just such a special experience for Nick Taylor a few years ago to have the opportunity and ultimately to realize that goal. I mean, a 72-foot putt, sort of a walk-off putt to win the thing is unbelievable. And then you think of this weekend and how cool. You don't want to sort of heap too much pressure on our athletes. We say our athletes because we're so proud of them, but a Brooke Henderson win in Edmonton at the CPKC Women's Open would be unbelievable. I'm going to be there just fingers crossed, and she's playing great golf, and it's going to be a great weekend, so I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We're obviously watching a lot of other things happening right now, and that includes kind of, as we speak to you, sort of, not to be dramatic, it's a fact, hours away from this Trump deadline, right? When it comes to imposing these tariffs, 50% tariffs on a number of different Canadian goods. Did you see that they're going to 50% tariffs on honey? What did the bees do to anybody? Honey is on the list. Honey and hockey sticks and a whole bunch of other random things. But as those negotiations continue, getting some interesting insights into where the concessions are being made and where the Canadian negotiators, where that Canadian delegation is digging in its heels. I'd heard reported this morning, they were saying that the Americans had come back with a proposal to drop tariffs on Canadian-made autos, in particular out of Ontario. That's a big story. We got into that with Supriya Dwivedi in our most recent episode, talking about the industry impact by provinces. The Americans apparently reportedly offered to drop that tariff from 25 to 15%, and the Canadians said no, which means that Canada obviously digging its heels in. There's a ton of context we don't have in that, but I know that obviously everybody's curious to see how that's all going to wind up, and if there's not a deal done, what the implications are of that as well. Also wanted to circle back. We offer this platform. We say send us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com, and a whole bunch of you do, and we want to make sure that we set aside some time to get to your takes that fall outside of the flamethrower. That's our final episode of every week, typically Fridays. This week it's going to be a Thursday, by the way, Real Talkers. Final episode of this week will be a Thursday, and the flamethrower presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. But a lot of times we'll get emails that they're not fiery, they're opinionated, they're informed, they're entertaining, but there's not F-bombs. People aren't sort of like smoke coming out of the ears type thing. And so I wanted to get to a couple of these today on hate speech and AI data centers. But before we do, Johnny, we had a really interesting conversation with the dynamic duos, Saini and Nina from Stop Hate Alberta. This was back on August 12th. So, I mean, basically a week ago-ish, just over a week ago on the show, talking about hate crimes doubling in Canada since 2018, and hate crimes on the rise as well in the province of Alberta. Now, the jumping off point for the interview, if you saw it, was Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith. I don't know if you say lecturing, chastising, criticizing, whatever she did. She chimed in on the Edmonton Police Service anti-hate campaign and basically told them how she thinks that they should be doing their job, and it caused a few ripples, as you might expect. So we wanted to dig into that conversation, and here's a quick highlight from that August 12th episode.
Hate crimes have doubled in Canada since 2018. They're up year over year in Alberta, but when the Edmonton Police Service rolled out an anti-hate campaign, Alberta's public safety minister, and then the premier herself called out the cops, telling them to stick to solving real crimes, not policing hurt feelings. We asked the team at Stop Hate Alberta how they feel about it.
When you provide a space that says, we don't condone hate, but just so you know, you're very much allowed to have it and say it. You can choose the messaging you bring forward, right? You can choose to say and focus on freedom of expression and completely neglect that hate is harmful. It brings about racism and violence, incidences where people are harmed. And we're looking from children to seniors.
As a child, I myself was a victim of hate and racism many times. Hate is on the rise in Edmonton, in our province, and across the country.
It's a real choice for an elected representative that's never worked in law enforcement to start lecturing law enforcement on how to do their job. It feels like the public safety minister and the premier moved the goalposts immediately. I don't think that the Edmonton Police Service is talking about hurt feelings when they're talking about reporting hate.
When there is a fine line, when there is a threshold, we look at our leadership to protect us and keep us safe, and hopefully err on the side where there's no promotion of harm.
So that's our August 12th episode, our highlights presented by our friends at Kubi Energy and Canada Green Tech. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Make sure you don't miss any of the highlights. And of course, we put those out on social media platforms as well, pretty much all of them, thanks to those of you that follow Real Talk RJ. So that episode, Johnny, it prompted an email from James, who writes into talk@ryanjesperson.com. He says, I found your episode on hate speech incredibly frustrating because I don't think that you can have a serious discussion about hate speech without taking freedom of expression equally as serious. He says, I'm not defending hateful ideas. I'm defending the principle that lawful but awful speech is still speech, and that being offensive, ignorant, hateful, or deeply disagreeable shouldn't automatically make someone a criminal. The whole point of freedom of expression is that it protects speech we don't like, not speech we approve of. James says, what bothered me most was the lack of a meaningful opposing viewpoint in this discussion. I've heard this a few times, and I'll comment on it after I read James' email. He says, you spent a lot of time discussing the harms of hate speech, but very little time seriously examining the dangers of giving governments, police, or institutions greater authority to determine what constitutes unacceptable speech. James says, and that's where this gets dangerous. I don't want Danielle Smith deciding what constitutes hate speech. I don't want Mark Carney deciding. I wouldn't want Pierre Poilievre deciding either. If you don't trust your political opponent with that power, why would you trust your own side with it? He says even the discussion around the call to prayer illustrates the problem. Should we report Ryan and Johnny's position on the issue because somebody else interpreted their opposition as hateful or threatening? This is when we were talking about the call to prayer in, was it Saskatchewan? Was it Saskatoon, I think? You can Google that if you want the background on the story. I found out about that story thanks to our live chat, powered by Park Power. Real Talkers put that on our radar, and I gave you my honest thought on it, my gut instinct on it, my first thought on it, live on the show. And James was obviously listening to that. He says, suddenly the same mechanisms being advocated for could potentially be used against people expressing opinions you disagree with or even against you. And that's exactly why the threshold between something being offensive and something being criminal needs to be extraordinarily clear. There are examples of this happening in the UK. It says we already have laws dealing with actual threats, violence, harassment, and hate propaganda. Before creating additional powers, I'd like to hear a serious discussion about what specific problems those new laws solve, what existing laws can't address, and what safeguards prevent them from being abused by whoever happens to be in power. He says, and there's a practical issue here, too. If police resources are being spent investigating someone's offensive tweet, by the way, that's not what's happening, okay? This is what you might call a red herring, but that's not what's happening. Back to the email. He says, I'd much rather see those resources dealing with actual violence and the people committing it. Criminal law should be focused on genuine harm, not becoming a mechanism for policing people's opinions. Says people like Michael Geist from the Law Bites podcast and other experts have been raising serious concerns about the federal government's recent legislation dealing with hate speech, online expression, and expanded government powers. Aaron Pete from the Nuanced podcast, Brian Lilly from the Full Comment podcast, Ben Mulrooney could really challenge Real Talk's position. What's Real Talk's position? I digress. And I think Real Talk would benefit enormously from having people who seriously challenge your position on this issue on the show. You don't even know what my position is. And Ben Mulrooney's not coming on the show. Get serious. You don't have to agree with them. That's the point. Bring them on and have the debate. Says, I recently listened to a debate on an incredibly controversial subject where both debaters essentially thought the other person should be imprisoned for their position. I don't think either of them should be imprisoned. I don't have to believe someone's position is reasonable or even remotely correct to believe that they should be allowed to express it. And James says, and that's why I'm disappointed by this episode, August 12th. Real Talk is successful because it gives people a place to have difficult conversation. But that only works if both sides are actually allowed into the conversation. I can't wait to respond to this. Freedom of expression isn't a trivial technicality that gets in the way of protecting people. It's one of the foundations of a democratic society. People have fought and died for it. Encouraging neighbors to monitor and report one another's speech. None of this is real, by the way. None of this is happening. What's in James's email? To monitor another's hate speech starts to sound less like community safety and more like secret police mentality. History has plenty of examples of what happens when governments encourage citizens to police one another's opinions. Again, this is not happening and this is not a thing. We should be extremely careful about normalizing that. Nobody is. We should be extremely careful about sacrificing freedom for security, because if we keep surrendering freedoms in the name of protecting ourselves, eventually there may not be much freedom left to protect. James says, I'm not a religious zealot or someone coming at this from the far right. I was very left-leaning politically, but I became increasingly disillusioned when I saw people on my own side showing what I felt was a blatant disregard for freedom of speech. I was genuinely lost as a voter. James says, you don't protect free speech because you trust the people in power. You protect it because you don't know who will be in power next. That from James in an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Now, I have received significant feedback from people that are calling for exactly this. They wanted a dissenting opinion or a different opinion on the hate speech, hate crimes episode, which is interesting. As a matter of fact, there's a guy who wanted to be a city councilor in Edmonton. He ran, he lost, and then now he's building this big Instagram following, rage farming. And some of you are taking the bait. I see it because you're writing in asking us to have this guy on the show. And I'm not going to turn him into a hero nor a celebrity, but this guy who thinks he's got all the solutions, this guy who definitely thinks he's Edmonton's next mayor, is in our comments, in particular on X, on Twitter, and on Instagram, talking about how we've become a talk show that is platforming activists. Says we need more balance on the show because we're platforming activists. What we're doing is speaking with people, in particular Nina and Saini from Stop Hate Alberta. I should show their website here to let you know. It's StopHateAB.ca, and they're doing really important work, including gathering data, reports, working with law enforcement across the province to, stop hate. Again, that's StopHateAB.ca, and some shocking statistics on hate crimes, not just in Alberta, but across the country. You'll notice I've not talked at all about snitching on, eavesdropping on, or reporting your neighbors. This is not the barbaric practices snitch line, the barbaric cultural practices snitch line. Stop Hate Alberta is working with communities that are affected by all forms of hate. That includes bomb threats at synagogues. It includes violence toward Indigenous people. It includes, obviously, horrific comments or threats of violence or manifested violence against people based on race, color, creed, ethnicity, or other. And I don't understand why some otherwise smart people are being duped into believing that this position that the Premier of Alberta and her Public Safety Minister, Mike Ellis, took has something to do with freedom of speech or people's hurt feelings. That was the jumping off point of this entire thing. It was the tweet from Alberta's Public Safety Minister clapping back at the law enforcement agency in the provincial capital, asking people if you see hate to report it, which seems to me to be a pretty common sense position. But the Public Safety Minister obviously doesn't think that hate speech or hate crimes, I guess, have anything to do with public safety, and certainly thinks that he's a more appropriate governing body, or perhaps the Premier herself, to be administering law enforcement strategy, public messaging, and otherwise than the cops themselves. This is about the government of Alberta taking an issue like hate crimes doubling in Canada since 2018. These are the stories we hear. I don't want to be glib. I don't want to come across as flippant, but referencing like families out for a walk being mowed down by a madman behind the wheel of a van. That's the sort of thing that we're talking about, right? We're talking about people that are beaten or in some cases killed because of who they are, and those incidents have doubled in Canada in the last 8 years. So for the Premier or the Public Safety Minister to present this as an initiative to get neighbors snitching on one another and people being arrested for their tweets is not just disingenuous, it's totally inaccurate. It's actually fucking ridiculous. And so I'm not going to allow this to turn into some sort of a thing where Real Talk is like taking a position on freedom of expression and trading freedom for security, because that's not what this is about, right? And I don't know James's ethnic background. And James, I'm not going to say your last name because I'm not looking to dox you or put heat on you from a motivated audience. But I don't know. My guess is, James, based on your name, and I could be wrong, but my guess is that maybe you've not experienced firsthand what it's like to have somebody persecute you or physically harm you or threaten to physically harm you or a loved one based on how you look or where you came from or who you pray to. It's a pretty mainstream, kind of a, if I can say in 2026, kind of a white sounding name, first and last. And so I don't know, James, maybe if it doesn't land in your lap, you're not going to understand why hate crimes doubling over the course of 8 years nationwide are an issue and cause for concern. But there's people with lived experience like Sonny Johal, who sits with us here in the studio and says that he was bullied, and he was pushed around, and he was discriminated against based on his faith ever since he was a child, and all the time. Like, he's telling us this story firsthand. But guys like James and others want me to make sure that there's a dissenting voice on the panel. And I'm not sure what the dissenting voice is going to offer in that conversation, right? This many number of Albertans or this number of Canadians experienced hate speech or were targeted by hate crimes or threats of violence over the past year. And then I turn to the dissenting voice. And what do I say in that interview? Do you believe him, or do you think they're making it up for attention? Like, is that what the dissenting voice is going to bring? This was not an audit on freedom of expression in Canada. This was not a deep dive into federal or provincial legislation targeting the manifestation of our rights or the threats of our personal freedoms or the trade-off of freedom and security. Because if it was that, then I would put a roundtable together with dissenting opinions based on my 20 plus years in media, understanding what makes for good conversations and good roundtables. But every once in a while, when a government authority, an elected official in a position of leadership like the Premier of Alberta, starts telling the police agency of record, one of the biggest police forces in the country, how to do their job and to quit policing hurt feelings when they're doing their best to tamp down a rise in hate speech and hate crimes in the province. The Second Sons white nationalist group is holding a full-blown training camp down in Millerville, just outside Calgary. Premier hasn't said a word about that. And groups like Stop Hate Alberta are stepping up, reaching out to our show and saying, hey, listen, like, we need to have a serious conversation about why that EPS campaign, that education and advocacy campaign, the PSAs, the public service announcements, we need to get that on people's radar, and people need to understand that this is a thing. This is a real thing. And there are people of faith. There are new Canadians. There are people whose families have, been on Canadian soil for 5, 6, 7 generations that continue to experience discrimination, that continue to experience aggression, in the worst cases that become victims of violence because we're not doing enough to talk about how these extreme attitudes begin, how they're fostered, the role that algorithms play, isolation, the incel stuff, the manosphere stuff, all the big conversations that we need to have. And a group like Stop Hate Alberta is reaching out and saying, can we make sure that this is on people's radar? This is a serious issue. You don't both sides something like that. This was not some sort of a highbrow interview on, exactly what it means when we dig into our constitutional rights or when we look at the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and how that's not what this was. And that should be so obvious to anybody that was watching. So for James and everybody else that's written into the show, including that clown that wants to be Edmonton's next mayor, that's all in our replies accusing us of being a platform for activists. It takes a lot of balls, by the way. I don't know if it's balls or just stupidity to be a white guy who's got a lot going for him, jumping in the comments and calling two brown people calling out hate speech and hate crimes activists. I mean, that's the most tone-deaf comment I think I've seen in a long time. And every once in a while, we got to clap back and just remind you the purpose of these conversations that we have. So, James, thanks for your email. Totally disagree with you. I'm all for having conversations on the trade-offs between freedom and security, because those are great and important conversations to have. And this is an audience that's smart enough to not just have those conversations, but to drive them. But that's not what our August 12th episode was about. And I thought it should be painfully clear. It's people sounding the alarm, saying we have a real issue, we have a real problem. Hate crimes are not hurt feelings. That's the issue that I personally had with Minister Mike Ellis's statement and then the Premier echoing that. Hurt feelings? Really? Like, you're going to say that to somebody's face? Somebody's going to let you know that they've stopped their kids from going to practice their faith because at their particular house of worship, they're receiving bomb threats or there's swastikas painted outside, right? You know, you're going to tell people that have lost loved ones or see threats, stuff popped in their mailboxes, discrimination, getting beat up at school, getting ostracized, whatever the case may be, that it's hurt feelings? If that's where we're at with our lack of understanding on the impact that hate is having in our communities, then I will say we'll have more of these episodes to make sure that people are talking about it. And don't ask me to bring on the dissenting opinion or to both sides hate crimes. It's ridiculous. Hate crimes are not hurt feelings, and hurt feelings are not hate crimes. And nobody said they were. That said, we welcome your emails anytime to talk@ryanjesperson.com. James, I appreciate you taking the time to send it in. And if you want to clap back at me, a reminder, the Flamethrower's coming up. It's a Thursday this week. It's the final episode of every week, presented by our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. This episode of the show is happening with support from our friends at YEG Plus. This is Canada's first airport loyalty rewards program. And for those of you that are catching Real Talk right now before heading into Edmonton, you're going to be be arriving at Edmonton International Airport just in time to check out that CPKC Women's Open. This is a perfect time to sign up to make sure that you're getting rewarded for every dollar that you spend at YEG. That's Edmonton International Airport. Sign up takes like less than a minute at yegplus.com/realtalk. And then every time you park, shop, or dine at EIA at YEG, you're going to earn points that bring you closer to exclusive rewards. And there's a lot of exclusive rewards. Check them out on the website again. That's yegplus.com/realtalk. The one that speaks to me is the free parking. What about free coat check with parking reservation, free luggage wrap, and so much more? Again, that's yegplus.com/realtalk. Our friends at The Helm letting you know that they're in the final few days of their store-wide sale. This is the time to revisit your favorites before they're gone with an extra 20% off all sale items. The Helm is my go-to for men's luxury casual wear all the way up to elevated formal. Some of the biggest brands in the world, Brunello Cucinelli. Of course, they've got Xenia and so much more. Stone Island, I've fallen in love with Stone Island. You can browse the sale online at thehelmclothing.com. A reminder, if you shop online at thehelmclothing.com, the promo code REALTALK takes 10% off your order. They'll ship for free across Canada for orders $500 or more. But if you're anywhere near downtown Edmonton, we encourage you to pop into The Helm. It's a luxury retail experience, a 3-story shop, just stunningly beautiful, about a block from our studio. Explore the new arrivals at The Helm, in-store or online at thehelmclothing.com. If you're looking for a memorable night out this summer, you've still got time to get your tickets to Edmonton Opera's big event that's coming up August 26th at the University of Alberta Botanic Garden. This is Opera El Fresco. Pack a picnic, stroll the gardens, enjoy that charcuterie box that's included with your ticket, and settle in for an unforgettable evening of incredible live music under the open sky. It's a perfect date night, a great evening with friends, even a chance to experience something a little bit different. You can get your tickets. It's coming up August 26th at the U of A Botanic Garden. Tickets online at edmontonopera.com. And this is Real Talk. We want to make sure that we're talking about a real union as well. And, of course, that is our friends at IUOE 955. This is the International Union of Operating Engineers, representing about 12,000 Albertans that are making huge contributions in workplaces and, of course, in their communities across the province. We're talking about people that are working in oil and gas construction. We're talking about skilled professionals that are operating heavy equipment, crane operators, law enforcement, healthcare, renewable energy. IUOE 955 kind of does it all with real union representation since 1948. If you'd like to learn more about IUOE 955 or browse their job board, maybe a new opportunity right there for you, you can find them online at joinustoday.ca. That's joinustoday.ca. Brought to you by IUOE Local 955. Tracy here in our chat says, Real Talk has a strong history of respect and tolerance and a wide range of perspectives. Let's protect that. And that's something I know that drives us, Johnny. We were happy to have uncomfortable conversations here. We're happy to have conversations where people disagree. As a matter of fact, we look for those types of conversations. But I just wanted to point out, not everything needs the yeah, but perspective.
Well, look, James, thank you for your email, but it's also, I'm just going to say, it's annoying. It's a nuisance to hear this over and over. People with these opinions that have been formed with misinformation, just so uninformed. The police weren't asking or trying to form new laws or policies so that they can police your tweets or your emails or whatever.
Not even close.
We already have hate crimes. It's already a criminal code, section 718.2. It requires the court to treat hate motivation as an aggravating circumstance when they're trying to pursue sentencing and to make that sentencing harsher. It's just a simple example. Example A of an assault is two people in a bar bump into each other. One guy or girl hits the other. That's assault. A hate crime assault is when a stranger punches someone because they're Jewish, black, gay, Muslim, etc. And to figure that out sometimes, because it's one person's opinion on the other or there was no witnesses, maybe we're going to look at their tweets, maybe their emails, maybe this person was texting the person all week saying, I'm going to effing kill you because of expletive and racist comment. And if that happens, we get a severe sentence. And the police are asking people to keep an eye out and to perhaps be, someone who would step up in court as a witness. That's all they're asking you to do. They're asking you to, if you see something, say something. That's it. And these people who are afraid of being monitored and their tweets and that, well, then just don't assault someone. Don't spray paint expletives on their garage. Don't, don't yell at people in public and have witnesses know that you're saying things that are racist or homophobic or whatever it is. And it really just, every time I hear someone like that, I'm like, you're just someone who doesn't want us to look at your social media, your emails, your text messages, what you say at the water cooler when you think no one's around. And all we're asking people is to be good citizens. That's all the police were asking. They weren't saying, hey, we're going to start wasting time doing XXX. They just want people to help out when these things happen.
This is the exact same thing as, and I used this example before, of airport authorities saying if you see an abandoned duffel bag, say something, right? It's the same thing as police saying if there's been a rash of garage break-ins in your neighborhood and you see somebody sniffing around, say something. If you see something, say something. It's applied to a million different angles of law enforcement. And by the way, you know who's best at policing? Police, not politicians. Although no shade to Calgary's Mayor Jeremy Farkas, who's in our live chat right now, powered by Park Power. By the way, if you are down in Calgary and you'd like to save on internet, electricity, and natural gas, check out parkpower.ca/realtalk. His worship, Mayor Farkas, says, I would love to chat with James, the author of the email, about the value to the public discourse he thinks is added by giving license to the people who threaten to murder me for being an LGBTQ politician.
Yes.
That's Calgary's mayor right there.
That's what I'm saying. So if an incident happens, I'm not going to make examples because then it will get off track. But something horrific happens and then people look back and say, well, look what he was posting, or look what he was texting this person. Look what he was emailing. Look what he was saying at work. Look what he was, look at what he was displaying on his front lawn. You should have seen the signs. But then when it comes to hate, they're like, let everybody do it. No.
Yeah.
We got to watch out for
we never
this
saw
stuff.
it coming.
Exactly.
We never saw it coming except for the...
All the police are saying is, hey, shit is on the rise. We are so busy. If you guys see something, let us know so that we can prevent or possibly have harsher sentences for the people that do things. We need you to step up. We need you to come to court. We need you to say something. It's not being a snitch. It's preventing worse things from happening. People are always talking about cleaning up the streets of Edmonton, having less violent, feeling more safe. That's exactly what this is.
Greg's in here saying, so this is also kind of one of the the white victim mentality talking points. Greg's in here saying we got so many church burnings and zero investigations. Doesn't that seem lopsided? Number one, burning a house of worship is never okay. Number two, I will say, I understand why some of them are happening, and this is a pretty formative time in the history of our young nation, including the legacy, and I don't use that word in complimentary fashion, the legacy of residential schools. And I'm not saying that every Christian church fire is directly related to the history of residential schools, but I do acknowledge that something is happening there. And I would also suggest, Greg, that it's ridiculous to proclaim that there are not arson investigations underway when churches are burned to the ground. You think the RCMP and firefighters show up, put it out, and then just leave it? Sorry, Father, sorry about your church, and leave it? What are we talking about here? And the thing about James is when he says, I want to go back to this, and he says, the discussion around the call to prayer illustrates the problem. Should we report Ryan and Johnny's position on the issue because somebody else interpreted their opposition as hateful or threatening? So Cole's notes, if you missed that show, basically, and like I said, Real Talkers do an amazing job of keeping us in the loop. Sometimes something's happening or there's a story, it's not on my radar. I'm human. I got a lot on my mind. Someone's going, Johnny, I don't remember who it was, but someone was like, hey, what do you think about that Muslim call to prayer story? I think it was in Saskatchewan, right? Saskatoon, something like that. And I was like, I don't know. I Googled it on the fly. I'm reading it, and it's there's some pushback from community members that are hearing this call to prayer. I think it was just once a day, wasn't it? I think it was at noon every day. Other people were writing in, telling us in their communities, different parts of the world, where there'd be like a public call to prayer like 5 times during a day. And we're having a conversation about what do you think about that? And we were comparing it to like church bells or a clock tower. Or how do you feel about, public expressions or amplifications of faith in a public space where not everyone is a what do you say, like a loyal member or a believer of that faith or a follower of that religion? And we had a very interesting conversation. Like, what are you talking about? What's someone going to report my position? Did I say anything about Muslim people? Did I say anything about Catholics? Did I say anything about Christians that would even remotely qualify as hate? Like, what are you talking about? Like, not even close. I mean, these are these red herrings. These are these ridiculous arguments that people will make. Like, well, what about Ryan's position on Muslim call to prayer? You're going to call the cops? I want to say the cops are going to laugh you out of the room. I don't think that they would appreciate us presenting it as that. But what people think that police officers are taking marching orders now from people that are snitching on their neighbors about shit that's like a 1 out of 10. Like, what are we talking about? That's not what this is. We're talking about people being targeted and actual hate crimes happening. People being survivors, or in many cases, victims, permanent victims, if you know what I'm saying, of crimes, of assaults, of homicides. So we're talking about. To ask for the other side on that perspective, or to suggest that I'm going to get arrested from the cops for musing about whether or not I think that a mosque should be able to publicly proclaim through a loudspeaker a call to prayer. What are we even talking about? In your neck of the woods, Real Talkers, don't let anybody convince you that that's what this is about, because that's not what this is about. That's not what the Edmonton police were doing. And they're in a tough spot too, I mean, the police are funded by the city's funded by the province. I mean, I know I'm sort of lazily drawing lines there and how it all goes, but how many times have you seen like a major urban police chief call out a premier? It really doesn't happen. Right?
Yeah, and they're just asking for help. But I hear the dog whistles like, we wouldn't need hate crime sentences if we had adequate sentences for crimes. Well, what's the adequate sentence for 2 teenage boys who are out having drinks and have a little scuffle on the street compared to like a grown man who stalks a woman for wearing a burqa, or somebody who like drives a car and tries to hit 2 women holding hands? Like, they're clearly different. And that's what the police are trying to do here. They're asking for help to gather evidence, but not only that, to preemptively stop hate crimes from happening. They're not asking to change any laws or policies or grab people's phones and read. They're just asking to gather evidence so that when shit happens in B bucket compared to A, they can say, okay, this B bucket guy, gal, whoever, needs a stiffer sentence. They need a lesson to be taught because they clearly are a threat to the community, less than these 2 people who just had a disagreement that had nothing to do with race, gender, class, sex, whatever. And that's all it is. And it's so infuriating every day to hear people be like, oh, they want to do this. They want to look at your phone. They want to look at... That's not at all. They're just trying to make distinction between it. The police already have a tough enough job dealing with houselessness and addiction and crime and everything in the city. If the community could help to be like, hey, this thing that happened here, I was actually listening. Here's what was said beforehand. This guy person did nothing, and this person assaulted them, threw this at them, drove their car at them, burned whatever because of X. That's all the police are asking for. A little insight.
In our live chat here, Ambustion's watching us on YouTube, our live stream presented by California Closets. Book your free consultation today, by the way, californiaclosets.ca. Ambustion says if we have no professionals, law enforcement, RCMP, for example, involved on the hate speech file, we get confrontations between citizens, and that's going to make it worse. And Ambustion, I 100% agree with you. Tracy C. says law enforcement could be increased. We have all the laws we need, but we don't have the police forces that are focused on the task. Husker Nation says, fine line. It's not anyone's responsibility if somebody gets offended. We're not talking about people getting offended, guys. That's not what this is about. Don't let them convince you or make you believe that this is about people being offended. They're trying to downplay it because they want to still make their shitty comments. I'm not talking about you, Husker Nation. I'm just saying that's not what this is about. He says, or they say, I don't know, a Husker Nation guy, gal, who knows, who cares, says intentions of hate is different. Everyone seems to be offended by everything these days. Cheese says to end this and other discriminatory practices, says, people need to step up in big ways. Super Chat Ken says this has nothing to do with monitoring free speech. This has everything to do with reminding people that sometimes their hate speech can turn into hateful actions. The line is easy to cross for too many. Like, we use you invoke the example hypothetical, but otherwise tragically very real as well, which is like the radicalized shooter, right? We see these incidents where whether it's a school or a workplace or what have you, and we're not immune from it in Canada. Obviously, it's a regular occurrence. It doesn't even make the headlines. Doesn't even, old school reference, doesn't even make the front page anymore. If like fewer than 10 people are killed in a mass shooting in the United States, but we're not immune from it in Canada, and we see it. And not every time, but many of the times when you learn a bit about the radicalized shooter, there was warning signs. People are, police will go through their computers, see what they were posting or see what they were streaming on Twitch or see what sort of things they were subscribing to or events that they were attending if they were ever getting out of their parents' basement, right? And you look at this and we understand the radicalization, and wouldn't law enforcement and as a general community, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to have that on the radar? Wouldn't law enforcement appreciate a heads up? It might be a visit to somebody's house to say, hey, when you posted that thing about blowing up a synagogue, what did you mean by it? Right? A visit from the police. And maybe that person could be dissuaded from perhaps taking action on something. And if there was no intent, a visit from police officers, an open police file, and a reminder that they're on the police radar may do something to tamp down the public statements that are unnerving people. I mean, the victim mentality, guys, I know I'm a little fired up here right now, but like Greg's in our live chat right now saying to me, no mention of hatred against Christians and Jews. Like, number one, what are you talking about, right? Stacey Levitt Wright happens to be, she does incredible work advocating for and in many cases speaking on behalf of the Jewish community in Edmonton. She was watching that episode. She was commenting in the chat. I was talking about it and reading her comments. And this whole thing about like persecution against Christians, guys, I grew up in the evangelical Christian tradition. Like, I understand that you've been raised in the church. We have been raised in the church. This whole thing about persecution and martyrdom, and it's almost like you look for it because it almost makes you feel like you're earning the jewels in your crown. You know what I mean? Like you're getting persecuted, because I get it, guys. I went to a Christian school growing up, and guess what all the little assholes did that were waiting across the street, Johnny? They did this. I don't know if they planned this on purpose or not, but our school bus pickups were across the street from each other. The Christian school bus would come this way, then the public school bus would go the other way, and the kids would throw rocks at us, the Christian kids, right? So that was my first understanding of what persecution looks like. But guess what, guys? If we look in the mirror, we also realize that Christians around the world have done some of the most persecuting, including right now, and the absolute bastardization of evangelical Christianity in the United States through the MAGA movement. So the whole thing about this is it's not like Christians against the world against Christians, and don't let anybody convince you to believe that either. Hate directed at somebody based on anything about who they are, where they're from, who they pray to, who they love is unacceptable, and we need to get a better understanding of how it's impacting our communities. We seek to understand, and that's why we had those guests on.
Yeah, and look, if white Christians are being persecuted and you want to, establish that as a hate crime, great, fold them into it. But that's not what's happening here. We know minorities and people, those are the people those are the hate crimes on the rise. It's not against white. There's a reason why Combat 18 and the Proud Boys and the Second Sons and Aryan Strike Force and the 3%ers are training, working out, having fight clubs, preparing for things. It's because they want to cause violence.
They want a race war.
So when it happens, what is the big deal about showing a video of them training for a specific event that happens? Wouldn't you want that to be part of it? And
should I have had the Second Sons leader in on that roundtable, Johnny? Just to get the other side of the coin?
It's mind-blowing. So if we're going to look back at their tapes and them training before they were to do something horrific, then Joe Schmo on the street who punches someone for a reason should have the same thing looked at. And that's all the police are saying. They're saying in these smaller incidents where it's A versus B, his word versus the other person's, can you help us out? And even more than that, can you keep an eye on when it's happening so that we can intervene before these horrible things happen? And everyone's not in uproar. It's a small minority of people who are afraid to have their own closet opened and looked inside.
Erica, thank you for your YouTube channel membership, says, I'm not talking about inciting violence or harassment or threatening people, but offensive, vulgar, repugnant, disgusting language that I would never use or support should still be legally protected. It is. Literally nobody is being arrested for, and by the way, a sort of a word of the day calendar approach there, Eric. I love it. I love that. Nobody's being arrested for offensive, vulgar, repugnant, or disgusting language. I can tell you for sure because I was at a major sporting event with my 4-year-old a short time ago, and the guy right behind us was using a whole bunch of offensive, vulgar, repugnant, and disgusting language in front of a kid just older than toddler age. I questioned the wisdom of his approach. He had a few pops, I understand, but he wasn't arrested. No one's getting arrested for saying offensive things. But here's the thing. Number one, freedom of expression also comes with consequences when it crosses the line into threats to incite violence, right? As an example, and in so many ways as you would want your family or your faith community or your kids or whatever the case is to be protected if they had threats against their life, we should insist as a society that that's our minimum standard. We're not changing the laws here. Nobody's losing any freedoms. This is the whole thing, this freedom call, right? It's what's driving the absolute idiocy of the Alberta independence movement as well. They want freedom. Freedom from what? From the tyranny of Ottawa. Well, explain to me in common sense terms how you are less free now as a Canadian than you would be as a sovereign Albertan. And that's where they get hung up. Because the whole idea around freedom, it's the same as the word hope, Johnny. You know, Barack Obama, the posters back in the day, hope. And then people were like, and turned him into this kind of cult figure and obviously had a very compelling tenure as president of the United States and the whole 9 yards. Because why? Because they latch on that word hope, these rally cries, these words. Freedom is another one. But if you get people to actually explain, number one, how you'd be more free in this example by leaving Canada, or in the context of hate speech or hate crimes, how your freedoms are being taken away. If someone were to give an actual example and actually were to say, well, I did this and I actually wound up in handcuffs and I was actually charged and I was actually prosecuted and maybe even convicted, chances are it was not for something that they tweeted, unless it was a death threat against the president of the United States or the prime minister, in which case, well, you're an idiot and made your own bed and you lie in it. But no one's getting arrested for unpopular tweets. No. And I can promise you that because we see about 1,000 of them every day.
The people who are talking about we don't have enough freedom, they have a distorted, perverted version or view of freedom. Like their view of freedom is like we're living in The Walking Dead or The Last of Us, where they can police their own property as well as the city and their community, walk around with AR-15s, say whatever the fuck they want. Like it's people who are not. It's someone in the chat just said that's the first time I've heard of any of those hate groups. Well, yeah, it's hard to know about actual news when you deny that any news is the truth and take the red pill every morning and go on podcasts and YouTube. Like this is what the police are trying to do. They're trying to shine a light on people who cause hate. And I'm talking about the bottom of the ladder all the way to the top. People who are just on the street yelling at people, all the way to the top, who people have organized, formed 1,000-member organizations like the Second Sons and all the other ones I mentioned. And they're just trying to shine a spotlight on it. And if there's people who have never heard of it, then what are you doing? And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's what law enforcement is noticing as well. Holy crap, it's hard to keep a handle on these people when people out there don't even know about it. So if you see something, say something. Tell your neighbor, tell us, we'll go, we'll take a look if it escalates to the point that we think we need to take a look. But they're not sitting at computers all day looking at tweets. That's not what this is about.
No, not even close. Husker Nation says any kind of call for violence is crazy at best, and it's sad. It's becoming more common here in Canada. But disagreement and dialogue back and forth doesn't justify people being called a bigot or a racist. Those two words fly off the tongue a bit too casually for some that show disagreement. I mean, I will say, and I've said this before, I lament the loss of respect around words like Nazi, fascist, communist. I think that we're throwing them around too flippantly, in particular Nazi, but I think a lot of them, they've lost their meaning, and people that use them present day, I mean, unless you're talking about history, they really don't have a clear understanding of what they're talking about. Most people don't even know what socialist means, the critics anyway. But I would say this as well. It's not illegal to be a racist, right? It's not. You can believe whatever you want. However unpopular your views may be, it's not illegal to be a total degenerate, like to be a real class A piece of shit. It's not illegal, and no one's prosecuting you for it. But you cannot take action on and threaten people and inflict violence on people because of the way that you're wired as a racist. That's consequences. That's law and order. We're a law-abiding society. That's how it works.
But you can still be like I understand these people. Like if you say racial slurs in a public, like if you're at a concert or whatever, you might get kicked out, right? These people,
or you might get your ass kicked.
100%. These people envision a world where they can say that shit in public and have no repercussions. And it's just, even if it was illegal or wasn't illegal, people around you are still going to act. They're still going to say something. They're still going to be disgusted. And their perverted view of reality is that one day we get to a place where like people cheer them on for saying it, or at least let them do it all the time. Like society as a whole the majority does not appreciate it, and they never will. And that's that's just the truth. And so when I hear those emails, as well thought out as it was, and articulate, and who knows if it was ChatGPT helping them, but
I don't think it was ChatGPT.
You know, they try and make these points, and it's people like that who talk like that. And
I think what
I've
it is,
said this
Johnny,
a million times. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I can tell that Jordan Peterson is a quack. I can tell when people are talking to people who are unintelligent, trying to be like sound smart. And that's what that email is. It has a bunch of points that seem well formulated, but there's holes in all of it.
I think that they've just got to James. They've got to James, and I'm not trying to be a dick.
He sounds smart.
I bet James and I could have a beer, and I would love to have this debate. And James, I would have a beer with you 100%. But I just think that they've got to James to believe, and this is mission accomplished for Ellis, Minister Ellis, and for Premier Danielle Smith. It's mission accomplished because they've attempted to anyway in the short term to flip the script on this and to make it about something that it's not, right? And they're answering again. I mean, these are marching orders to government, right? From the people that feel threatened by this, that have influence on this government. It makes absolutely no sense for the public safety minister to clap back at a law enforcement agency's anti-hate campaign. That makes no sense. It makes zero sense for the premier to involve herself in this. Danielle Smith has her own problems, right? There's a referendum coming on October 19th. It's a pretty big deal, right? And if you want to check out our August 12th episode, I mean, listen to Saini Johal talking to us about the impact that they've seen on the impact that this referendum is having, and in particular, the questions on immigration, and it's making people that are, you know, to reference an old conservative phrase, that aren't the old stock Canadians. It's making a lot of people feel nervous and even worse, making them feel unwelcome and even unsafe in their communities because they're fanning the flames of these sorts of sentiments. And so that's where the premier's focus needs to be on, not clapping back on law enforcement. Danielle Smith's big on telling politicians and others to stay in their lane, and she's far out of her lane on this one. I love this from Tracy D in our chat. She says, some days I'm just so sick of people. They can be so people-y. And by people-y, I mean they have their heads up their asses. Why does everybody want to move backwards? Good God. That from Tracy D.
Tracy, that's how I feel every morning when I roll over and I'm like, don't look at your phone. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it's my job. But it's just true. Like, and I'm not trying to insult James for sending in that email. I love emails of opinions that are dissenting or opposite from ours. But man, the stuff he's reciting is information for people who hate information. They openly say, I avoid looking at this, this, and this, and this. And then they form it's like, it's accidental education. It's like, it's complex issues, no PhD required. It's the most annoying thing ever.
Ambustion says white nationalists are holding literal military training drills. When are we going to wake up and stop the tolerance of intolerance? Once they're trained and matching in the streets, this is idiotic. Darren says some people view rights as zero sum. They believe that as marginalized people gain, they must be losing. And fear drives them to hate. Goramu says, is being called a racist worse than being a racist? Big victim energy here. Noob, our buddy. Noob in the chat says, freedom for me, but not for thee. Seems to be a big part of the problem here. Let's maybe, just maybe, stop hating and fearing what we don't understand. Metamodern says, I've never been called a racist in my life, and I just use this one simple trick. I don't say or do or think racist shit. It's actually pretty easy. Pongi wonders, how does somebody get fired for speech that isn't against the law? Something said away from work that would be unlawful dismissal if they choose to fight it? I disagree with that, Pongi. I mean, your employer can fire you for any reason, whether it's with cause or without cause, and there's plenty of examples and plenty of precedent set, especially in the social media age. You see it all the time with apologies to Karens everywhere. My first crush was a Karen, Johnny, but there's a lot of Karen.
I know a lot of Karens who are just great people.
Wonderful people.
They got the short end of the stick.
I mean, Karen Faulkner in here earlier today, CEO of the Stollery Children. So with apologies to Karens everywhere, but we've seen the Karen videos where someone will come up and basically, represent themselves so poorly that the internet does its thing.
Why are you parked here? Why are you in this neighborhood?
Why are you in this neighborhood? Why are you driving by? Whatever. And then the internet goes and does their thing and figures out who it is. And oftentimes part of that, I mean, can you call it? I guess it is doxing, but part of that doxing, let's call it the public identification effort, is that they'll oftentimes find out where these people live. And oftentimes those people are fired because they're bringing a lot of heat onto the company. I can think one car dealership in the United States where it's a real hot story. How about the gal? I mean, it's kind of more of a funny example, but when the New York Knicks won the NBA championship, the World Championship this year, remember that gal stole the New York Knicks themed garbage can? Yeah. But then she worked somewhere at like Goldman Sachs or something like that. I don't remember. And actually, people thought she was a hero, and people thought it was hilarious. Except for I do think she dumped the garbage out before stealing the can. Maybe that was a move she would take back. She ended up getting canned, and why? Well, because she worked. Maybe it wasn't Goldman Sachs, but she worked somewhere as a money manager or like a wealth advisor, whatever she did. And she was on a viral video stealing. So like, guess what? Fuck around and find out. She lost her job. You're not immune from it. You can't go around, even though you live in a free and democratic society, which we do, it doesn't mean you can do whatever the hell you want without consequence. And that includes the status of your employment.
That's the freedom they envision, is a world where they can just say whatever the hell they want all the time and have no repercussion from getting fired. Look, I've made mistakes in my life. I've said stupid things when I was a teenager, done stupid things, had my run-ins with the police, etc. But when fully grown adults with fully formed frontal lobes are saying vile things and hatred for no reason, and spewing hate about, anything, someone's race, sexuality, gender, whatever it is, I don't think it's a big deal if that person's a fully grown adult who's had years to form opinions and know what acting, civilized and right from wrong is. I'm not going to say civilized. I don't act civilized in public on the weekends if you see me after 12.
Confirm.
But just... what's wrong with shining a spotlight on people like that? And I'm not talking about like doing what they did I'm not talking about flipping the script and causing violence on them, but there's nothing wrong with showing people horrible people, putting a spotlight on them.
D-Grade says, I've been threatened by somebody who assumed I was Ukrainian, says I'm not, and told me to, quote, go back to my country. I wonder where experiences like that fit into conversations about rising hate incidents. TD says, I feel so sorry for people that jump on bandwagons based on misinformation. In what other aspects of their lives are they being duped? Probably a lot. How about this from Noob, who reminds us, as we have seen, if we get complacent about hate, it grows quickly. Others of you sharing your thoughts, the conversation continues. Listen, we want to hear firsthand how this is landing with you. If we're talking, high level, hypothetically, esoterically about something that is searingly real, visceral in your own life, and you feel like sharing, you can send us an email anytime to talk@ryanjesperson.com. You can leave a comment on our YouTube episode. You can also leave a comment on Spotify. And as we wrap this episode of the show, Johnny, again, we'll check you in at ryanjesperson.com. Friends, if you go to the merch page, we're very excited about this. They're finally out. They're here, everybody. Our proudly Albertan, fiercely Canadian hoodies are ready to be shipped, as well as the brand new Real Talk snapbacks in 2 new lovely colors. Get yours today at ryanjesperson.com.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton, member emerita Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.